The Purple Pedalway is the longest of the pedalways in Norwich. It forms a circle around the outside of the city. We start this leg of the journey on Falcon Road East, and we're heading northeast into Sprowston. And the first thing we notice is that the type of housing has changed dramatically. We're no longer in a local authority council house area. This is the land of bungalows. These are the bungalows of Sprowston. We take a left here into Leveson Road, which has predictably more bungalows. And then that one, yeah. And very shortly after that, we go right into Linton Crescent, with, believe it or not, more bungalows.
Didn't notice any signs there.
None at all. If you followed the punk scene in Norwich during the 1980s, you might be familiar with a poet by the name of Prem Nick, and one of his poems was called The Bungalows of Sprowston. Well, this is where it was written about. And if you've never heard of Prem Nick's poem, well, Google is your friend. We take a right here onto Cannerby Lane. So we leave the bungalows behind us and we're into an older street of suburban houses. And this brings us to the Reepham Road, which is another traffic problem. Anyway, we turn left and almost immediate right into Cousins Hardy Road. So really this is only a crossing of the Reepham Road. But as I say, normally this is a very, very busy route. And it's only because we picked a very quiet day to do this ride that it's like this. Just ahead of us there was a pedestrian crossing. Surely that could have been moved to be closer to the junction or some arrangement made. But crossing the Reepham Road is really not something you should have to do without traffic lights on a cycle route. So this is a through route which connects Reepham Road to Barker's Lane, and both of those are quite busy roads, so it's reasonable to assume this is something of a rat run. Although of course today it's very quiet, but that's because we picked a quiet day. And also remember, this is car dependent suburbia where everybody owns a car, so we can expect really quite a lot of vehicles down here normally. So yes, it's nice and empty now, but I suspect on a normal day you'll be seeing a lot more traffic down here. And now we meet another busy road, Barker's Lane, and on this section there's no cycle infrastructure at all, so we've just got to ride with the traffic. And to make things worse, the speed limit down here is 30 instead of 20, which quite a lot of the car drivers don't think applies to them anyway. So traffic speeds are considerably higher here. Now, although I said there was no cycle infrastructure down Barker's Lane, it isn't quite true, because unbeknown to us, on the right hand side, there is a cycle track, a shared use pavement, but nonetheless, we just didn't know it was there. There's no signs, nothing. And then we come to the Reepham Road and turn right, and at this point on the left is the end of the blue pedalway. It would have been really good if we'd seen that secret cycle track on the right hand side, because actually at this point it connects with a side street which runs parallel to Reepham Road and then joins another bit of shared use pavement. And as I said, we just didn't know the cycle track was there. And as we approach the traffic lights, you can see the secret cycle track on the right. Yeah, that would have been really useful. Never mind. When we got to the junction of White Woman Lane, there was a half-hearted attempt at a safe cycle crossing, and it was at this point we noticed the existence of the cycle track. But of course, by the time we noticed it, it was too late to actually get on it. This junction here, look. This is White Woman Lane, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So first chance we got, we joined the cycle track. Not a terrible shared use pavement. It is a shared use pavement, but yeah, as they go, not too bad. This junction with the roundabout is a bit substandard really, because we don't have the right of way across this junction. Why not? Again, crossing a minor side road, and two of us have to give way to one person in the car. Why haven't we got the right of way here? If we were on the road, we would have had. And if you want people to use the cycle tracks, then you've got to make them the continuous route across junctions. I mean, that's fairly obvious, really. Unfortunately, there was nobody waiting for a bus. What happens there if there's a queue at the bus stop? But cycle tracks are really no good if you don't cut the hedges, and this is well overgrown. Anyway, a shared use pavement with no pedestrians is quite an enjoyable way to ride. At least you're out of the traffic, which normally down White Woman Lane can be really heavy. We now come to the end of White Woman Lane, where it meets with Spixworth Road. Now what happens here? I see a couple of cyclists crossing over, so I assume that that's where the cycle track goes. There's no clear markings on our road, no guidance whatsoever, so I cross the road because we're heading more or less straight across down to Lodge Lane. Now this is a really strange junction because there is a cycle track which heads north, crossing the NDR and a nice bridge, and takes you to Spixworth. But when it gets to this junction, well, it joins up with White Woman Lane, but otherwise it just stops. So this junction was a bit confusing, and I got it totally wrong, and I had to wait a long time for the lights to change for me to cross, in which time Roy was well ahead of me. If you were really observant, you will have noticed the 20 zone limit signs that we just passed, meaning this is suddenly, for some reason, a 20 zone. And because it's a 20 zone, we can now have traffic calming. It would make sense to have a 20 roundel on the road to reinforce the speed limit here. Right, see if this makes sense. We're just passing a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit sign. We were in a 20 zone, which means it had a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. So yes, we've moved from a 20 zone to a 20 limit. The two are not the same. Honest. In fact, looking at Google Street View, the end of the 20 zone used to be a return to the 30 zone. So I suppose really it's a recent change. Crossing St Faith's Lane, and to the left we can get down to the Outer Ring Road and the Yellow Pedalway, or if we go right we can go to the NDR and the cycle track that will take you up to the airport, but we go straight ahead. And suddenly, out of the blue, we get the cycle track. Well, a shared use footpath, but you know what I mean.
Oh.
Things are starting to look very open now as we approach the northern extent of the Purple Pedalway. We're pretty close to the edge of the suburbs here. Norwich doesn't go much further north. And we are now about to go through a huge transformation from the suburbs of North Norwich to the airport industrial estate. But notice the cycle track ahead is blocked off for some reason. So we have to take a detour into Meteor Close. And suddenly everything's different. It's an industrial estate, so the traffic around here is going to be largely vans, lorries, and quite a few cars. And at the end of Meteor Close, which is actually the northernmost reach of the Purple Pedalway, we turn left into Hurrican Way. More of the same down here, but the road is normally busier. And as I say, the traffic down here is industrial, so there's a lot of lorries and vans. At this point the yellow pedalway joins us, having come up from the city. And just mention as we go past, on the left used to be the University of East Anglia student residences at Leveson Lane, which is where I spent my first 2 years in Norwich. And at this point the yellow pedalway leaves to head towards the Aviation Academy. We carry straight on. And this is another very difficult section on the Purple Pedalway. Pfeiffer's Lane is an extremely busy road, even today, a low traffic day. And that was a really close pass by that car, and it was going a lot faster than 30. But it does demonstrate the danger of riding on busy roads. A cycle track, the pedalway system shouldn't be on this kind of road at all. Something much better is needed here. Well, I for one certainly wouldn't want to ride down here at a busy time. But eventually we reach the Cromer Road. and we more or less go straight across into Meadow Way. And that street lamp had a 30 repeater sign on it, which apart from anything else is just pointless. I suppose it's just to reassure drivers they're not in one of these silly 20 zones, despite being a residential area with a pedalway going through it. Anyway, the bungalows are back. This section is just a little bit annoying. We have to take a U-shaped detour. That's just the way the streets were laid out when they built it. So we're going back up the other side of the U-shaped detour now. Now I didn't see any signage around here, and it's not really a very intuitive route. Unless you know where the Purple Pedalway goes, it's not easy to follow it. But this road looks like a very quiet suburban street. I just wonder why it hasn't got a 20 limit. And then ahead we come to the Reepham Road, and as with so many of these radial routes, Reepham Road is very busy normally. Unless you're an experienced rider, I wouldn't recommend this road on a normal day anyway. But we're not on it for long, and at the roundabout we take a left into Middletons Lane. Middletons Lane has a cycle path, but it must be one of the worst excuses for a cycle path in the city. And as I leave the road to join the cycle path, listen out for the bang. Yeah, that was the sound of the curb giving me a puncture. So this is as good a point as any to end part 4 of the journey around the Purple Pedalway.